EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of EduTechGuys Radio, brought to you by Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative and Hope Public Schools, both located in Hope, Arkansas. I'm David Henderson.
The fight for the mic. Everybody jump for the mic. I'm Greg Moore.
And I'm Jeff Madlock.
That was great. We both leaned into the mic and looked at each other.
Everybody, hey.
We haven't been doing this for 15 episodes. No, we're still new at this.
That's right.
Give us time.
It's always a new game here.
Always.
Hey, thanks for joining us at radio.edutechguys.com. And if you'd like, you can also hop on Periscope and check us out. We're broadcasting live on Periscope as well. We appreciate everybody tuning in there. You can tweet to us at EduTechGuys, and we're following along on the Twitter, as Jeff would say. Oh, sorry.
We got to put the fish on
the Twitter.
The fish on the table.
There we go.
The Twitter. And I say I'm following along, and I'm actually not, just to let you know.
He lies.
I know. I missed it.
How dare you.
Anyway, so today's show, we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about Learn Launch Accelerator, 50 of the best podcasts for high school students, why have a class Twitter account.
You mean a tweeter?
A tweeter?
Gotta have the tweeter.
Among some other things about instructional programs and should colleges judge social media presence as a basis for admissions.
Ooh.
You know, I think that's a neat one.
I would have never gotten any degree or anything. They'd be like, who? Get out of here.
When we jump into that topic, that's going to be really cool to talk about because they actually talk about that very thing.
Oh, really?
About being on?
No presence whatsoever.
A ghost in the machine.
On the interwebs, on the super highway, if you will.
Information super highway. Yeah. Welcome to the 90s.
On the other hand, they would look at my stuff and go, no.
They love you, David.
Everybody loves David.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's hard to believe it's episode 15 already. We've already been doing this.
Episodes.
Man.
That's a long time.
That's 3 5s.
It is 3 5s. that is one more episode than twice the number of Star Wars episodes that are about
just crazy.
You know,
we're cranking right along now.
We are.
If we can measure the radio EduTechGuys stuff in Star Wars, then
we are smoking it. We're like Han Solo's grandchildren.
And Jeff is just looking at us like we've lost our minds, which we probably have.
We have.
I'm not sure why I do this show with you guys. I'm going to put on my headphones and listen to myself so that I'll talk really slow.
Oh, yes. For anyone who's never done a radio show or tried to speak while hearing yourself in your ears, it is a very different experience. It breaks your mind.
There's an app for that. Now I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
my daughter was playing with that, and where you talk and stuff.
I had me reading one fish, blue fish, red fish, two fish, 12 fish, whatever that is.
Whatever it is.
The Dr. Alcamazar Seuss book. Hey, you know what's interesting is if you're listening to us right now, you're listening to us at radio.edutechguys.com. You can also catch us up on the web at www.edutechguys.com. Jump to the bottom of the page. You can drop us a note, leave us a message, send us an email. You can also find us on Twitter at EduTechGuys. Also, now if you'll go to the iTunes store and you will search podcasts for EduTechGuys, you will find our previous shows on there. We're 4 short at this point. I have not gotten 1 through 4 on the podcast feed yet, but it should be up by tomorrow.
Yeah, the podcast is currently 4 shortened.
It's 4 short. Where's my hammer?
I couldn't help it. I had to do it.
No hammer. You can't touch
hammer.
This.
So yeah, you can check us out on iTunes. Pull us up on the podcast stream there and add it to your device and listen to us on the road, in the air, on a horse, on a bear. I was trying to rhyme that, but it didn't come out very well. Also, hey, we're coming up pretty soon. The 3 of us will be traveling with 2 other techs to Minneapolis, Minnesota for the JAMF National Conference in October.
JNUC.
JNUC,
Yes.
the Jeff Nation Users Conference. A lot of fun. I think the most fun of the whole conference is just the networking with folks that you meet there, because it's not just education, large group of education people,
Right.
But people from all,
Yeah.
if they're using a Mac or an iOS device, they're probably using Jamf as an MDM, as mobile
Right.
device management piece.
Yeah, and it's just throw this out there, but we've got in our service area, which we serve 9 districts. 2 of the districts are already using it. One district is seriously considering it, and then another that I talked with would like some more information, a demo, that kind of thing. So one of the things that I'm going to do is pull together a demo from Jamf during one of the area tech meetings.
Awesome.
So yeah,
That'd be
cool.
perfect.
Yeah.
And when that gets scheduled, I'll throw that out there. And
Yeah, we'd love to.
anybody within the listening area,
Yeah.
the world.
It's interesting. I think we're 4 weeks into school. Is this the 4th week or 5th week?
Oh
for
gosh.
us?
Has it only been 4 weeks? I don't know. I don't know much how farther I can make it.
We're getting close to progress report time for the first 9 weeks in this area. And I know most schools are now getting settled in. I think we're kind of finally getting close to getting settled in. We still have some stuff that, it's always something coming
Always.
up. But if you have something going on out there,
Oh,
please drop it to us on the Twitter, or like I said, go to www.edutechguys.com. Down at the bottom of the page and send us a message. David checks those religiously every evening at 5:42 p.m.
4:43, not 5:41.
religiously,
5:42 p.m.
Sundays,
Religiously.
some Wednesdays,
Pulls out
Easter,
his Bible
Christmas.
pad and checks it. Thought you'd like that one. That's fun
funny.
stuff, isn't it?
That's very funny.
Hey, listen.
You're a very funny man.
Today's show, we don't have a guest today. Last week we had an excellent guest, Richard Byrne, who was a lot of fun to talk to. We hope to talk to again soon. He's actually coming to Arkansas in November, and we're going to find out those dates from him when he publishes them on his website, which he hasn't yet.
It hasn't, but do you think he's coming to Schools Without Walls?
No, it's actually, I know exactly what it is. It's the
Oh.
Rural Superintendent's Conference that they have. That's exactly where he's going to be
Okay.
at, because those dates match up with the exact dates that he gave us. So I believe he's
You
coming
did
to
some
speak.
internet sleuthing.
Well, I mentioned it to my superintendent, and he said, that's the same dates that I'm going to the rural convention there.
Well, then, speaking of Schools Without Walls, their keynote speaker and special guest presenter is Ginger Lumen, and she's been on the show before, so that's pretty cool. We're gonna go to Schools Without Walls. I think we're gonna try, actually do a presentation up there, take the radio show on the road in front of a live studio audience, and maybe we'll get Ginger in studio on the air. That'd be cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. If you want to check that out on the web, we're also posted here on the Twitter here in just a second.
The Twitter.
It's bentonb.wix.com and /SYWeb. If you want to check it out, I'm about to drop it on the old Twitter right now.
Okay.
Oh, did you do it?
I was working on it, but
Race.
I can't
Go faster.
I can't keep up with you.
I am fast. Schools Without Walls is now, that website is now on the Twitter feed. Make sure you check it out. I think it's going to be a really good one this year. I think this is their 3rd or 4th year, so they've got those years under their belt now, and so it looks like they have some really great stuff going on. I believe they are still calling for presenters, so if you've got something that'll work great, definitely jump over to the website, click for presenters. Let's see, matriculating.
Matriculating.
I'm matriculating. Yeah, they are still. It looks like they are still taking a call for presenters. So
Cool.
if you definitely want to do it, definitely jump over there. Yeah. So we had Richard last week, and we have some other guests coming up in the future. We'll try to maybe start putting those out on the website a little early, so you'll know what's going to happen. Keep them on our Facebook page.
What?
There's only 3 of us.
Spoil the surprise?
I don't know. I don't know why you people think we can keep up with a Facebook page. There's only 3 of us. Who's gonna watch my Pinterest? I'm crocheting pot holders for Christmas. My goodness. So
Is that what I'm getting this year? Pot holder?
that's what
All
you're
right.
getting for Christmas.
Thanks.
We were
man.
spoiling all the surprises.
Yeah.
Darn it, there's no mystery left.
I tell you what's really cool. So today we're going to talk about some stuff that's about podcasts and about what's going on in the classrooms and all that good things. So how about we take a quick jump out to one of our commercials that David dropped out, we are also going to be at the AESA conference in December in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. Yes.
I was going to say if he tell you more about it.
Well, I was, but I thought that was the promo you were playing.
No, I'll let you tell him.
Okay. Well, then, yeah.
Then I'll play the promo for you. How's that?
As you can tell, this is totally unscripted.
We're professional.
I
see the script. I just can't read it.
Well, there you go. That's why we're on the radio. December, early December, the 5th through the 8th or 9th, or somewhere in there. I'll be honest, I can't remember. I just know it's around the 5th. The AESA, which is the Association for Education Service Agencies, it's their national winter conference. It's going to be in New Orleans at the Hyatt Regency, and we'll be broadcasting live. So you can check us out there, and you can go to aesa.us and get information about the different breakout sessions, and they're still putting some of that together. But it's a pretty cool conference. It's where education service agencies from around the nation come together and talk about the different services they provide. There's a big vendor floor area. You can meet up with vendors offering different wares and softwares, and hang out with us.
And we'll be there. So
that'll be awesome.
We're going to drop to a 30-second commercial real quick, and we'll be right back with some more EduTech Guys Radio.
Join EduTech Guys live from the 30th Annual AESA Conference in New Orleans, December 2nd through the 5th. We'll be providing day-by-day coverage as we talk with presenters, attendees, and members of education service agencies from around the nation. Get rid of the noise and listen to the music with EduTech Guys Live, December 2nd through the 5th. Brought to you by Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative, Hope Public Schools, and the Association of Education Service Agencies.
Hey, welcome back to radio.edutechguys.com. We're live, coming from the Southwest Arkansas Educational Co-op.
Live.
Might as well jump into the old fray. So I posted some stuff on our topics today. The first one was about Learn Launch Accelerator. Pretty interesting stuff. They are an accelerator out of Boston. And
Boston.
They
wicked awesome.
Yeah, they're doing some really interesting stuff. So the fall they have an accelerator program. If you don't know about an accelerator program, you don't necessarily need to know about it, but you can really get your kids excited about it.
That's what CERN does, right?
Yeah.
Throw a bunch of students in there.
No.
Exotic particles.
Not the same thing. What's cool about accelerators is that they've been around for a long time, and they'll have competitions where tons of startups will show them, will enter and throw their wares, do an elevator pitch, and try to say, hey, look at our startup, we need some help getting it going. What an accelerator does is it takes those startups that it chooses, it gives them a little money, sometimes there's no money involved, but it does put them in touch with lawyers and managers and PR people and other people in the business, and it helps them get their business into their startup situated, so that they learn a lot more about being in the program of being a startup. So that's a big deal now. Is I think a lot of people have realized that maybe education is the way to start going with startups, because Facebook's Facebook and Twitter's Twitter, and I don't need another one until someone buzzes my phone. Sorry about that. But yeah, they did the companies that are selected this fall are, and this is out of Boston. That's where the Learn Launch Accelerator is. It says, we are excited to match up these companies with members of exceptional Boston EdTech and entrepreneurial ecosystems to grow lasting and impactful companies. So they are Affordable College, which is a platform out of Atlanta, Georgia, which helps college students get a clear path to how they can afford a bachelor's degree. Then there's Babel Books. That's funny. Out of Boston.
Books.
Yeah. Cashtivity out of Melbourne, Australia. And that's a pretty neat one. 21st Century Skills about learning to be an entrepreneur. Learning Game Studios out of Alexandria, Virginia. Menlo Learn out of New York. Skookie. I love that one. Skookii. It says it's an engaging payment platform for K-12 schools and parents, which is interesting. That's out of Temple, Arizona. And the last one is Teachers Connect out of Boston, Massachusetts. Boston.
Boston.
So, yeah, that's pretty exciting. They started off with about a little over 100 groups.
They've narrowed it down to those.
They narrowed it down to those, and they will start partnering with companies and coaches and all this kind of stuff to help them learn this is the business of doing that whole thing. And
That is very cool.
I just thought I
Very
wanted to
cool.
throw it out. I thought you guys might enjoy that one.
Well, I read something not long ago that when it comes to funding startups, venture capital, things along those lines, that the education market is really where a lot of those folks are focusing their attention. That the education market, those any startups that are focusing on working directly with students in schools, that's where venture capitalists and even traditional models, banks, those types of entities, that they're working with those startups that are focused on education. So, hey, if you've got an idea for an education startup, get your stuff together, and there's money and backing to be had.
That's true. I think what's really interesting is we were just talking about something that happened today, and that we are still dealing with. In certain areas of what we do, we're running into software that's 5, 10 years old.
Yes.
Anytime you hit software that hits the decade mark, something is wrong.
Well, and you got to look at, if you are looking at a platform, and this is where a lot of startups come from. If you're looking at a platform and you go, I can see 10 glaringly big holes in this piece of software, this app. And you talk about it with your friends and colleagues, and they go, yeah, you're right.
And then you look for an alternative, and there's just not one available.
There's not one there, and if you wait for the company to fix those glaring holes, you might have just missed an opportunity just to rewrite the whole thing.
Right.
Sure.
And beat them to the punch. Who makes the better mousetrap is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
And that's, if people are wondering why there's so many startups, well, that's why. Because somebody goes, well, I can make a better app that'll get you to a better burger place faster.
Right.
So I mean, but that's really
burgers.
key. And I really think that in education right now, that's where we are. Because a lot of educational apps were really quick. Hey, drag the A to the apple and the B to the baseball and the C to the cat. And that's all it did.
Right.
Well, that was fine on the iPad 1 4 years ago.
Right.
But now we need it to tie to a standard, and we need it to show,
Exactly.
Well, and not only that, but looking through this list of I guess winners,
Services,
awardees. I don't know what you call the people who won.
Right.
But you look through these, and several of these are not aimed at students. They're aimed at the teachers themselves.
Right. And parents.
Building those, and parents,
Yep.
building those collaborative communities, and helping teachers reach out to other teachers and reach out to parents, and the other way around, helping the parents get in contact or stay in touch with teachers and districts, and building those communities, which is, I mean, that's vital. Especially, frankly, when it comes time for local districts to need to raise that, some local funding in order to help fund some kind of a project, whether it's technology or whatever it happens to be. You start talking about, if you've got that community outreach and you can show, hey, this is what we want to do, and we can help you get there.
Right.
Man,
that's a really big deal.
It is.
It's interesting. Remind 101.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it might have started for kids, but it's more of a parental piece now, which brings me to, I'll give them another shout out. We've done it again, Aptigee, which is a startup here in Arkansas. They're really smart. The website is exactly a communication piece that mirrors the app. And the whole thing is centered around communication.
Yes.
Not necessarily communication with the students, communication with the community and with the parents, because that's a big one. Because you're right. We're looking for somebody to vote that millage in. We're looking for, we want to get support, and that's the best way to do it.
Plus, we've already got the students here. Why would we need to communicate with the students through a website?
Exactly.
We need to communicate with the parents and everyone else.
But it's funny. Here in a second, one of the things we're going to talk about why having a class Twitter account. That falls into how do you engage students in the communication aspect, and how do you make communication easy for them? Hey, talking about student communication, one of the really neat articles that's out there is one that's out called 50 of the Best Podcasts for High School Students. Now, if you're listening to this, then you probably listen to podcasts, and That's
Or
cool.
At least one. We know
At least
of.
one. Hopefully ours. Hopefully you're listening to us right now. But that's a real interesting thing. You might find of the 50 podcasts, if you could throw out this list to your students, you might find that they really might find one they enjoy that might be something really cool for them. I don't know if you guys are looking at that webpage.
Yeah,
I put all the links
yeah.
in there.
All
I'm trying
the-
to be all helpful to everybody.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool stuff. Not to go through it really quickly, but they've broken them down by academic-related podcasts, general and special interest podcasts, entrepreneurship, inspirational and motivational, and they put them in there. And there's some really great ones, not just for kids, but just for everyone. Like I see one right off the bat that says Star Talk Radio. Cool. Stash and Burn. Wonder what that's
Stash and
about.
And of course, TED Talks is in there. And anybody who's ever listened to a TED Talk,
If you're not
knows that.
watching that, if you don't go to the TED Talk site and find you 10 videos that you can't watch, then you've got a problem. Yeah, exactly.
TED Talks
You
are
got a
awesome.
problem.
You got
But talking about podcasts, that's a big deal to us. We've gotten podcasts have been around for a long time.
Good gosh, yes.
But it's funny. A lot of people listen to podcasts, and a lot of people do podcasts. And just today, a good friend of mine was on the podcast Composers on Fire, which is all about modern composers writing music. Composers on Fire.
I know.
And there's
I'm over here stifling a grin because that's exactly what I pictured, first of all.
help me, I'm on fire.
That explains a lot.
But that's podcasts are a big deal.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that they fit into your day where you don't necessarily have to set aside time for them explicitly. You can be doing the dishes, you can be driving home, you can be doing all sorts of stuff while you're listening to the podcast. Whereas an article, you actually have to sit down and do nothing but reading the article.
Exactly. Or if you happen to tune into a live broadcast online,
Not that we know any of those.
not that we know any of those, but but still, your schedule has to match up,
Right.
which is part of the reason why we worked hard. I say we, Jeff mostly headed that up,
By we mean Jeff.
but yes, but getting our live broadcasts converted over to podcast format so that you can listen to it later. You don't have to listen to us live. We love if you would and love that you do, but if you can't, then there's at least another way that you can
Absolutely.
still catch what's going on. So
Yeah, and the cool part is that I would think listening to podcasts, if you can start talking about podcasts and video cast podcasts,
Vlogs or whatever.
vlogs or whatever you want to call them, or live streaming shows, because now it's
Right.
it's pretty easy to stream a show. Oh,
yeah,
you're listening
you
to
can-
one right
Periscope.
now. Yeah, Periscope. Hey.
Or
And so
live YouTube or
yeah,
whatever.
it's pretty easy right now, but I think you can get a lot of kids really interested in maybe doing their own. Considering like the platform we use, Mixler or Spreaker, they can log in and do a 1-hour show and just knock it right out and have their own radio show. One of the shows we'll talk about licensing. That'll be interesting. David and I have been doing a lot of research on licensing for it, and it's very expensive. It actually is. It seems like it's you can do about $20 a month, and you could do about 49 listeners a day. That's what that comes to.
Is that an
it's all
ASCAP
about-
license or is that
there are two companies out there that are really interesting. They put the whole thing together for you, and it's ASCAP, BMI, SourceWorks. It's 4 or 5. They cover all the gamut.
Okay, and that's
and
for
they
the-
file the paperwork for you.
Right,
but
exactly.
It's LTH. It's listening time hours is what it is. And when it looks great when you first see it because you go, oh, it says like 3,000 LTH.
Right, yes.
Well, when you do the math, it comes to about 49 live listeners, per hour that you're licensed to do it.
'cause it's
you
licensed
actually
per
get into
person?
per person.
Oh, my gosh.
When you jump, here's what's really interesting. We're going to talk about this. We'll talk about it. So what's really interesting is when you get into a commercial license. So if you don't make any money on it, that's one thing.
Right.
But that's where you can only go certain levels. If you started off just a basic one and you were going to do a 4-hour show, you're looking at $25,000 a month of initial licensing fee. And then you're looking at 0.0021 cents per song that you play per listener expected.
Oy.
So
that's
and at the end of the month, every month you have to calculate up how much you owe them and then pay them that fee on top of the money that you're looking at. So you see,
that's just to make it clear to everyone. That's the cover music, so that you can just like pick a song
Any
that you
song.
heard off the radio
Yeah.
and play that. Now, obviously, we have actually, since Jeff knows a bunch of musicians, and so do you, we've actually been able to get in contact with the musicians themselves, at which point we don't have to have the license.
We have their blessing.
We have their permission, and in the case of a couple of them, for example, some of the stuff we played through, say Nick C's stuff, it's his own original material, and it has not been licensed yet.
Right.
So therefore,
It wouldn't have been
it's
covered.
essentially public domain.
Exactly. And
Which is a whole other interesting conversation, because there are a lot of artists who that's the route they're going anyway.
Right, exactly.
They're putting their music out there in the public domain. Feel free to play it anytime,
and
anywhere.
You'll find that SoundCloud in those areas, a lot of those guys will tell you, hey, you can play my music, just let me know and let me give you. And that's the thing you really want, is you need, air quote, written consent.
Right.
Just them saying
Sure.
in an email, hey, sure, man, play my music. That would be great. We'd love to do that.
Or look for the Creative Commons license. For
Creative
anyone
Commons
who's
license,
not
that's the other
familiar
one.
with Creative Commons, that's the, what do they call it, the share and share alike license, where
Sure.
you can.
Yeah.
It's a license that has been created for the specific use of actually sharing content and covering your legal basis there. So you can actually say, this is made with a Creative Commons license. Here's the stuff that's all standardized. When you look at the symbol, oh, I can share this as long as I give attribution, or I can share this and modify it if I so desire. There's a whole bunch of different Creative Commons licenses, and pretty much if you just search for Creative Commons licensing, you can find that webpage and see all sorts of different levels of Creative Commons licensing, which you can then do a search for and find music that is safe and legal to play in a podcast. And that's something that we see all the time whenever we see student projects that have been created at Hope Public Schools. We'll get an email saying, hey, I'm looking to get such and such music for my video, and we're like, that's tricky. Let's talk about this.
That is a little tricky. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people do break the law, not on purpose.
No.
It's
No.
just they
It's
think,
so
hey, well,
easy.
Right.
it let me bring it in, and I drop the music in, and that's the way it goes. Now, here's
Right.
what's really great about your school. There are a lot of kids playing a lot of music.
Right.
And there's the thing that's really interesting about doing a radio show at your school, or doing a podcast, or doing a news show. You could probably find, especially a big city. If you lived in, and I say big city, it's like 20,000. That's big to us. So anyway, but if you're in a big city, even that, there's a lot of music out there, and it's really interesting. If Taylor Swift was your friend and she verbally told you could play any of her music, she actually has a right, no matter what other contract she signed, because she is the original holder of that music,
Right.
that you can play it. So, if you know somebody that's quasi-famous, amateur, that play clubs or churches or things like that, you should always pick their music up. It's a great way to put music on.
Sure.
Right.
It's funny we got into that talking about podcasts, but a lot of people ask us that a lot.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
and
how
even,
do you do that?
even the ones that don't ask, where you're just wandering through the building and you see a project going on where it's like, these are all Snoop Dogg videos that are being, this is not kosher. I'm sorry.
This is not a good idea.
This is
here.
a bad idea. Let's put it.
So hey, we'll jump on, and it's funny talking about that now, tying that into social media. A classroom Twitter.
My classroom Twitter, yes.
There's a really interesting thing. It's really interesting, and I hate to use our hearts go out to Delta State. Just a few days ago, a student walked in and shot a professor at point blank range and killed him. But Delta State actually used Twitter as their alert system.
Oh, really?
And that's how it first hit. It hit Twitter before it hit anything else.
Wow.
And alerted a lot of students, because most kids have Twitter account. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And you'll find that they're on Twitter quite a lot. And if you had a classroom account that was your teacher classroom account, or your school or your department, you'll find that most kids will probably follow you. You don't have to follow them back. In fact, I would highly recommend that you not follow them back.
Right.
Because you don't want to even know what they're discussing.
You're right,
probably,
exactly.
but-
That opens up a
that
whole
opens
other
up a
can of
whole other-
worms.
But them following you is perfectly fine.
Right.
Because when those kids are on Twitter all the time, not Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook's for parents at this point. I hate to tell you. Well, that's my opinion on it. There's not a lot of kids on Facebook. I don't think there are. Mostly Twitter and something else that none of us know about. Because I think all the kids realized a few years ago, okay, don't mention this new app. And
Well, it's interesting. I've got a daughter who just recently turned old enough to legally be on social media.
The social media.
Right. So she and a lot of her friends, is that she and a lot of her friends who are about that same age, they are sorry, I'm beating the table. Sorry.
Bang, bang.
But they are on Facebook and Twitter a little bit, but they're at that age where it's all kind of new and opened up. So they're on Twitter. And then I've got a son who's older, and he's several years into college, and some of them are on Facebook, but they have been migrating away from.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you said, parents and older folks, are on Facebook. So it's like, to borrow the term, right, noobs, right, newbies to social media in general are latching onto anything. It doesn't matter. Put me on
Right.
Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I don't care. Just give it to me all so I can see what's out there. But then it's just a few years older than that age range, and it's
Much more selective.
Much more selective. Yeah, it's a
I remember
dead zone for that.
I remember whenever I was in college, Facebook was still college exclusive, and good gosh,
Yeah.
now it's just completely different. It's
Yeah.
just amazing how quickly stuff changes.
Well, and I understand they're going to do a dislike button now. There's for real. That's,
Right,
that's
yeah,
the
that's
talk.
actually,
So,
yeah. Although technically it won't, from what I read, it's not actually a dislike button as in a negative, but it's more like, it's for those situations where you have like a friend who's had a tragedy in their life or whatever, and you don't want to put like because that sends a very odd.
Yeah.
You want to support them, but you don't want to say, "Oh yeah, I love that your mom just died."
right.
So it's like an empathy button from the way they're describing
empathy
it,
button.
or
Empathy
something like
button.
that. They haven't finished like deciding what it's going to
Sad
actually be
puppy.
badged as.
Well, it's interesting. So back to the class Twitter, the Quitter. The class Twitter. The article is a great one. It's Teacher Tech and about Alice Keeler. Really nice website. She has a wonderful blog there that she keeps with a lot of stuff. She was talking about a Canadian classroom that tweeted out that they would like people across Canada to send them a cup of dirt. And what they were doing is they were analyzing soil samples. And so guess what happened? Yeah.
I call it cup of dirt.
They got 40 billion cups of dirt.
Right, exactly. But she's interesting. She's right. You're reaching a lot of people with that. And she made a good point that even though you have the Twitter account that people could follow, be smart and make a class hashtag at the same time so that your parents can put that hashtag in things that they're tweeting, therefore reaching more of their followers by not just necessarily retweeting or popping in here. And then about tweeting their class. And it's funny, she gives a great usage of tweets here. Tweet class announcements, show off student work, give parents a window into what their child is doing every day, tweet the learning objectives, share student quotes, ask questions. She goes on and on and on. Field trips, project reminders, birthdays. It's true, a teacher could tweet 2 or 3 times a day. Very handy information for parents that are, and we've got to remember now that the parents that are coming in and bringing in their kids, especially to say pre-K to 5th grade, that's a young group of parents.
Sure.
Those are parents that are on Twitter, that
Right.
are on Pinterest, that are on Snapchat, that are out there knocking things down, and it'd be pretty cool to bring them on that way. I think it would be. Yeah. So yeah, go out there and get your Twitter account, and if you're not following us on Twitter, at EduTechGuys, @EduTechGuys. You can also follow myself at JMadlock and David at David in Arc, DAVIDINARK. I'm a fast speller. Why can't I speak?
Maybe you should just start spelling everything you say. Just,
No,
on the air.
ITHINKWILDOIT.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my brain still
He
can't do that.
can't think that fast. So
Unfortunately,
no.
I'm the stupid one. So that's
No. None of that self-deprecation here, fellas.
That's what it is, buddy. Hey, I tell you what, we're gonna do real quick. We've hit the halfway mark. This show's flying by.
Okay.
A lot of good conversation.
It is for us. I hope it is for you out there listening.
Everybody's going, oh my gosh.
Want to give a shout out to our buddy Chad Brinkley. He was listening a little earlier.
Sweet.
And,
Thanks, man.
See a group of folks popping in and out listening to us. I tell you what, we're going to do featured artist. This is a featured artist from the past, and his song is actually one of our lead-in songs. We played it a couple weeks ago. And so here's the kicker. We forget to get featured artists.
Yes,
No.
yes, we do.
So I'm making a plea out to you now, you featured artists out there. My hands are out. and
Magic featured
I'm on my
artists.
knees right now. The guys will attest. I'm on my knees begging
He's making us liars.
Virtual. I'm virtually on my knees.
He's
Virtually.
yes, exactly.
Hey, if you've got some music out there you'd like us to play, please go to the website, go to the bottom, let me know, or just tweet it to us. Or you can write me, Jeff, at edutechguys.com, and let me know what you'd like to do. If you want to get a hold of David, it's David at edutechguys.com. And if you want to get a hold of Greg, we keep his secret because the CIA is looking for him. So I tell you what, we're going to jump out real quick, and we're going to listen to a song from Nick Flora called Kick and Scream. This is Nick Flora from Nashville, Tennessee on EduTech Guys Radio.
Honey, don't hide, tell me all that you know. It's hard as it is to go it alone. We're getting older, so they tell me. Ain't no reason to kick and scream. I know it's tough when you get what you want, but it's not what you need, so it's never enough. For emotions, all that counts, so keep your head up and work it out. Keep your head up and work it out. I've been in a sea of heartbreak. I've been lost on the side of the road. I've been lying in a bed of mistakes. It takes time to see the ways we went wrong. So don't be so hard. We haven't known ourselves that long. You're not alone, darling. We're all trying, we're all fighting to make it on. And the river's rising down in what we know. Oh, we can't make it on our Keep fighting, keep growing. You'll be drowning in a sea of heartbreak. Keep loving, keep hoping, and you'll be lost on the side of the road. Keep fighting, keep going. You'll be lying in a bed of mistakes. Keep loving, keep hoping. Just know that you're not alone. Keep fighting, keep going. We all need to know that we're not alone. Keep loving, keep hoping. We can make it on our own. You're not alone, darling. We're all trying, we're all fighting to make it home. And the river's rising down in what we know. Oh, we can't make it on our
Hey, that was Nick Flora out of Nashville, Tennessee. If you want to check out any of his music, definitely jump over to iTunes and look up Nick, N-I-C-K, Flora, F-L-O-R-A. I believe his website is nickflora.com. Really nice guy. He does a lot of traveling around the country and plays a lot of house shows where he comes to your house and you can invite your friends over and he'll do a big show there, and it's a lot of fun. That's a big thing with traveling musicians now is doing house shows. And they come to the living room and play, and you get 30, 40 people. And potluck, and they all come over, and there's music, and you have like live music at your house, and they love to do that stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I would love to see me try to get 30 to 40 people in my living room. That would be awesome right there.
So yeah, nickflora.com. That's a great place to check out Nick. Hey, welcome back. You're listening to radio.edutechguys.com. Coming to you live from the Southwest Arkansas Educational Co-op. In Hope, Arkansas.
Hello.
You can check us out on the web at www.edutechguys.com. Luckily, there's very few pictures of us on that website, so you won't have to be too scared.
You will be spared. We will spare you.
We will spare you that terrible thing. But yeah, if you're a musician out there, let us know about your music. We will definitely play it, even if it's a spoken word to a tin can being beaten with a stick. We will also listen to it there.
What?
Yeah.
Dave's like,
want to say thanks to all the folks that are out there listening to us right now, and also want to say hey to all those folks on Periscope. Sometimes you get the background chatter that goes on their station, and it can get a little blue. It is not that
I'm blue and
but so yeah, we're back. We're having a good discussion today. It's interesting. We were talking about doing a show which was called a lunchtime show, and David hits the table.
Sorry,
This fine equipment that we have.
I'm a hand talker.
He is. You are a hand talker.
I am a hand talker. That's
That's actually from. That's a lot like wind talkers. They used them during World War II. They would stand up and do hand talking.
Didn't work out so well.
That was a movie, but it never came off the paper.
No.
Hey, well, welcome back. We're talking about some stuff that's important to us, and we hope that it's important to you. We think it's really popular in education right now. One of those things we just finished up with having a Twitter account for your classroom.
Yeah.
So you should think about that. The other one that we're talking about right now, we're jumping into. It's a great article. The article itself is okay. It's a good little article, but the title
what?
Well, I mean, the article, it's more, the blog is written more of just about this person, and it doesn't really go in depth, but the title.
It covers the basics.
Yeah, the basics. The title is what really caught my eye, and I think it's a great jumping off spot for us to have a discussion about this. And it's an iPad alone does not make an instructional program. Heck
true.
yeah.
How true that is.
Oh my gosh, it's interesting. A lot of schools jumped on the iPad bandwagon, and it was a bandwagon, and I am still a proponent to this day that a lot of amazing things can happen with an iPad.
Absolutely.
But you cannot build an entire instructional program off of an iPad, or a Chromebook, or a MacBook, or any piece of singular technology that's out there.
It's a tool. You don't get the tool and all of a sudden you have a full-blown house that's just magically built. You actually have to use the tool to actually build something.
That's exactly right. I think that's really interesting, and it's interesting. We were talking at lunch about, where's that fine line of which piece of equipment that you put in? And I made the statement, and this is just my personal belief. I mean, that's not the belief of the department or the EduTech guys, but
full disclaimer.
But it's interesting. The business world is changing. We always hear, especially in education, well, you got to use these apps and software because it's what the business world is using.
Right, exactly.
That's really interesting because when I watch a college commercial or I see a picture from a college room, it's like a sea of Max with a couple of
bunch of glowing
Chromebooks
Apple symbols.
Yeah, it's a bunch of glowing Apple symbols. And I'm not saying Apple's the champion at this point, but I think we're also seeing the business world. My insurance salesman carries an iPad and takes pictures and does all the claims through an iPad.
Right.
They don't use an Android; they're using an iPad. I don't know why. I don't know why the iPad is, and it might be because it's a luxury device. I mean, an iPad is.
Plus, it was first. I mean, it did catch, or at least for the tablet, it did catch first before the Android tablets caught on.
Right, you're right.
So,
and most of the developers are still developing for iPad.
iPad first, at the very least.
Right. Yeah.
Well, look what happened on Saturday at the reservation for iPhone 6s.
Yeah.
How many?
How many millions? Gosh, I forget the number.
It was over 10.
It was ridiculous. Over the weekend. Over 10 million reservations over the weekend.
So it kind of tells you that's why they're dominating the market at this point. But it's interesting. There's a couple questions on one of the system administrator lists we all follow that was, hey, we've got to buy something for K through 2. What should we buy?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to see the responses where people say, oh, Chromebooks. Got to be Chromebooks. K through 2, they don't read.
And they don't write.
And if they read, they don't read strong.
Right.
And a Chromebook is a web browser. I mean, in that tactile use of the hands and any tablet, I would agree was a tablet makes a really good choice.
Right.
But even in that discussion, they said, well, Android doesn't really have a lot of educational stuff as compared to the iOS store.
This
Sure.
is true.
iOS store's got a ton of educational pieces out there. But that brings us back to an iPad alone does not make an instructional program.
Right.
The kicker here is that, what apps are they using? How are they using them? For us,
And so often they approach it back, they say, we have money that we need to spend on technology. And so we aren't trying to solve a problem and then looking for the best tool. We're grabbing tools in search of problems. And that's
Exactly
the
right.
wrong way to do it.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's exactly right.
yeah, we show up at a stadium that's AstroTurf with a rake and a shovel and go, okay,
Oh.
doggone it.
Well, I mean, really, that's
Greg's exactly right. I mean, and I guess that's the interesting part for us is that I can't validate sometimes, what are we going to do in the next 4 years?
Right.
Well, so that everyone understands, I don't care where you're at on the face of this planet, one-to-one education and technology inclusion in the classroom is still in its infancy.
Oh, yeah.
No one can stand up and says, our school uses these 3 apps religiously in 95% of the classrooms. Not going to happen. Not going to find a school out there that's going to be able to say that. It doesn't exist. Now, I think we're seeing more places that go, all of our teachers use Google Classroom and Google Apps for education. Sure you do.
But at what level?
But at what level? And is it a program? Is it making is it help to the instructional program, or is it just
Tacked on,
Just
right.
use it.
right.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
I use this watering can to put gas in my lawnmower because I broke the spout off.
Right,
that
exactly.
Is that how you're using it? Yeah, we use the iPad to hold that. That table wobbles a little bit. The iPad goes under it.
Oh.
That way we can do our dissection of frogs on top of it. And then,
Exactly. Yeah. So is it being supplemental or is it being foundational currently?
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you. Greg used the big words.
Yes, exactly. I'm
That's
trying
why
to get
we
those
have-
$10 words out.
You know me.
I got my quota.
I just talk until stuff comes out.
But yeah, I think that's and whenever we started rolling out iOS devices, iPads at Hope Public Schools, I think we really saw whenever we started rolling them out, we rolled them out to teachers first. And being tech guys, we made a very silly assumption that we would just hand them out to the teachers, and the teachers would immediately have this, light bulb moment where, I could use this in my classroom in these 12 ways. And it didn't really work out like that. And I think, now it did in some cases. I'm totally not trying to bash any of our teachers, some of whom are brilliant. But it's not one of those things where you can just throw an iPad at the problem and all of a sudden magic happens. This is something that takes PD, it takes development,
Sure.
it takes, and the big word that everybody seems to hate that we talk with, the plan.
Yes, that nasty 4-letter word.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think because we're tech people and we're naturally drawn to technology, we don't get a piece of technology in our hands and go, let me get the manual for this. We go, oh my gosh, let me look into the settings and change it 14 different ways and break it 3 times.
Right,
And then
right.
realize, I can use this for these 3 things, and it makes my life so much better. Some people, they get like a global overview of what something can do, and then they immediately are able to see how to put that into practice. And other people want to see examples of how to put it into practice, and then they disassemble it and figure out how to work it into their workflow.
Right.
And I don't think we adequately address that in education a lot of the time. We have a tendency, at the
I don't
very
think we
least,
know how. I don't think we know how to put a
I would
label and a
agree.
definition on it.
I would agree.
It's like the makey thing that's going on right now. 3D printers and robots and Legos and that whole bit. The interesting part about that is that is such a small subset of STEAM.
Right.
That, what about technical writing?
Right.
Right.
Everyone's talking STEM and STEAM and girls in STEM and girls in STEAM. Okay, yeah, but what about technical writing? You talk about, if you go onto any job search board at this point, you're going to see the need for technical writers.
Heck, you go onto any social media website and you're going to see the
You
need
do.
for writing, period.
Writing. But it's interesting, and I think that's what happens is we build a Lego crane that picks up the Makey robot that prints a 3D set of glasses for the robot. But where does that tie into everything else?
Right.
The classes that I visited that are doing things like that, around, there's not a lot of math going on really. It's just Makey.
Right.
You know, and then when it gets to the point of let's code, you know, let's build the code to make this robot roll across the floor and pick up the egg and gently move it and drop it into the Lego dump truck. The interesting part is it's like one kid
Right.
doing the code.
Right. Well, to that though, I think that kind of goes back to what we're talking about. You know, part of that's planned, but also I think part of that is also helping the teachers incorporate some of those other things into it. So, just for the sake of argument, you have the crane that's going to pick up the robot, right? And yes, the students could simply build the crane and rebuild the crane and tear it down and keep going until they finally get the stupid robot to lift off of the ground.
Right.
Why not incorporate the math that's involved with making that happen
Right.
to start with, and then they can figure out, oh, it's going to have to be able to lift so many
X number of grams or whatever,
and at this particular, you know, height and whatever is all involved. I'm not a math person, so forgive me out there. But still, taking all of those things into account, really, before they even pick up a Lego. I mean, other than the fact maybe they need to, I don't know, measure or weigh or whatever, you know, exactly. So, and I think that's the piece we're missing. I think the piece that and I say we collectively, generically, and not pointedly at anybody, because there are some folks who absolutely get it.
Right.
But for the most part, I think, especially, you know, when you just throw technology into a classroom and say, hey, here's a bunch of robot parts and here's some iPads and a Chromebook and here you go, figure out how to put it all together and make it do something. That's where the whole planning part comes in. And I think that's where you have folks like tech integration specialists who can take those pieces and parts, that kind of the curriculum side, and figure out, okay, we got to be able to teach the math and the writing. It could be the math and the technical writing, right? And then teaching the functionality. Here's, you know, make this do this type thing, and then add to that the A in STEAM, the art stuff, right? So you make this crane, but is it visually appealing? Who would buy this crane?
Is that what that A stands for?
The A, appealing.
Appealing.
The Fonzie of it.
The Fonzie of it.
You know, I'm excited.
We are going to coin that. We own that right now. The Fonzie of it. Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
You know, I think we could discuss this for probably 2 hours, but I want to move us on. So, you know, that's what I'm
You
here.
always do.
I'm the move on guy.
You are.
At some point, we're going to have to do a whole episode based on the concept of the silver bullet and what we need to do for education. We need to do a whole episode on that.
There's a great group of people out there we could invite to to be in on that conversation.
Yeah. We could have a panel of folks.
Oh, a ton.
And just kind of
So,
chime in on that.
one last thing. We were talking about that Twitter in the classroom thing, and I told you that I would highly suggest you don't follow your students on Twitter because the things you'll see and hear are you cannot unsee.
And then you've got the question of, okay, because I have seen this, am I required as a representative of the school to do anything about it? And you get into weird
and Greg
gray
leads us
areas.
right into there's a next article I was looking at. It says, should colleges judge social media presence for admissions? Now here's what's really interesting is several NCAA football coaches will actually look at their football players' feeds and have been known to turn down students. And colleges are doing the same thing.
So do employers.
Employers do too.
If your social media profile is public, and I've even heard of employers that will actually request to become your friend, quote unquote, on
so they
Facebook
know what
or
you're
whatever.
doing. Well, it's really interesting. It's funny. This article, which we'll post here in just a second, gives a really neat thing about a Julia and a Kristen, and they're both 11th graders, and they both are equal. They work at animal shelters, and one plays first clarinet in the orchestra and is raising money for children who are refugees of the Syrian conflict, and blah 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 blah. And they look equal, so they're like, well, what do we do? Do we just flip a coin?
Right.
They actually do is the college went online. This is a real story here, and looked up both of them. And what they found out is that Julia didn't have much of a digital presence at all. She didn't use Twitter. She didn't use Facebook. But they did find some results about her track and field where she ran, and she was a really good player. Right. But now, on the other hand, they found Kristen's online activity revealed that she had some kind of racy self-images and crude language used humorously on her Twitter feed. Now, so you know who they chose? Julia. Because they're like, well, we don't need that headache. That was so they're both equal academically and community wise, but they use their social online presence.
And that opens up a whole social / rights discussion of, okay, where is the line drawn between what is personal and what is public? Because that becomes a whole issue.
A big one.
It does, but by the same token...
in this case, yes. For the Twitter thing, obviously that was all public.
Right.
But then you've got this question of, okay, what about these businesses that are asking to become your friend on Facebook?
Right.
Because that's essentially private. And now all of a sudden they're asking to become my friend so they could see what happened in private in the past.
Right, exactly.
Right.
This gets into some very gray, like all sorts of different shades of gray. I mean, you got light gray and dark gray and everything.
As a child... As a kid, you can make some...
Oh, yeah, mistakes.
Kids make a lot of mistakes,
yeah.
and they learn from them, and it's not held against you.
Right.
And it's interesting that this is, maybe becoming the norm. The article talks about that the writer in the New York Times did a Kaplan telephone questionnaire and found that 31% of college admission officers had visited an applicant's media page to learn more about them. 31%. Wow. So that means that it's happening. I mean,
sure.
People do it all the time. You meet someone, and what's the first thing you do? Is you Google them.
Right.
Let's find out. Let's go to their Twitter. Let's look them up on Facebook.
That's why I like to have a perfectly generic name. Greg Moore. Yeah, there's only like 4,000 of us out there.
Exactly. But that's a really interesting one, and I've always said that what you do on the internet is going to follow you forever.
Exactly. The internet never forgets.
True. By the same token, we often hear of folks that are, getting into politics, or they've been in politics or whatever, and somebody brings up a student paper that they turned in 30 years ago.
Right, exactly.
Well, 30 years ago, you wrote blah, blah, blah. Okay.
I'm not the same person as I was 30 years ago.
Well,
obviously.
And that's exactly. And the kicker is, though, even without the social media world that we have, where, yes, it's very prevalent and it's out there and in your face in real time, it's already been happening. Right. So it's not really like this is some new thing.
Yeah, right.
Look,
it's becoming more prevalent. And
it is becoming more prevalent.
It's being pulled up in new areas. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a great topic. And I think that's what I was trying to tie back in, is the fact that we're getting to a point where it's time for schools to start talking social media. I can see, there needing to be some more talk, especially with juniors and seniors as they get on up there.
Right, exactly.
Oh, I think, and really, I think it needs to start long
earlier.
Before that, just because by the time they are juniors and seniors, think about that. By the time they're juniors and seniors, they're what, 16, 17?
Right.
Okay, well, legally, they're not supposed to be online till they're 13.
Right.
Yeah, we all know. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
So these folks have already had a digital presence that could be 4, 5, 6 years old.
Right.
I don't know how many of you ever used Time Hop, the little app that goes back and scans your feeds and tells you what you did 4, 5, 6 years ago. But you look back and you go, holy cow. I didn't remember posting that.
I always say, look how pretty I was.
That is true.
But you're right. I mean, I think it's time that. But when a lot of kids used to come to me when I did band way back when we rode horses to school, I would tell kids, they would go, well, I didn't do very well my 9th and 10th grade year, or my 11th grade year, I didn't really. And I was like,
Right.
but admissions officers look at grades, because that's all you used to have was grades, and go, oh, I see it at 17 or 16 and a half, you grew up and you got
Right.
on the board. I think that can still work with a smart admissions officer could go,
Right.
I think so,
oh,
too.
well, look, the last 2 years, they've really cleaned up their act.
Right.
They actually deleted their old Twitter, things like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I agree with David, that it has to start really early,
Right.
cyber etiquette.
This is something that we both need to push back. We need to potentially rein in on the technology side to go, okay, how much is private and how much is public, and what kind of boundaries can we set? And we also need to have a social aspect where we go, okay, yeah, everybody needs to realize that people grow up.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. I'd be curious to talk to those admissions officers, the 31% who said, yeah, they went and looked at an applicant's social media page, to find out, okay, of that 31%, what percentage did that social media page affect that student's admission?
Right.
You know what I mean? So how big of a part does it play?
Right.
That'd be kind of my curiosity there.
Right, exactly.
I agree. Hey, we're running close to time. One of our listeners wrote, the good doc, he said, I'm waiting for someone to bring up a presidential candidate's MySpace post in the horrid backgrounds. And it's right. Think about when MySpace came out.
Oh,
my
yeah.
gosh.
It's possible that some of these candidates might actually have a
Exactly.
MySpace that's
true.
out there. Hey, listen, we're getting close into the show. Actually, we're at 5 o'clock.
We are.
We've done our hour, but I want to throw out the Google App Feature of the Week. This week, new Google Forms came out. And they've made some big
They've
changes.
made the icon purple, which,
Yeah.
which look, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, okay? But when I do Google Forms all the time for personal blogs I do. Purple. And well, all of a sudden, like, so I go to create a new form and it's purple. I'm like, what is this? What?
Yeah.
I know it's crazy,
we've
but
done
seriously,
blow to
it's,
minds.
yes.
Yeah, they've added some really neat features in there. If you want to try it out, it's an opt-in now. You can actually say, no, leave me on the classical Google form, but you can go in and opt into the new Google form. So even though the icon has changed across the board, the actual new features are opt-in. So if you want to do that, you need to go to your settings and go ahead and opt into the new stuff. It's pretty cool.
All right.
It has floating menus and stuff out to the side. So if you're looking at it and go, it's a new icon, but it looks kind of the same. Well, you haven't opted into the new stuff.
All right. I'll
It will
go
not
opt
go
in.
full featured until November. That's when it comes out. Hey, listen, you've been listening to radio.edutechguys.com. Catch us on the web, www.edutechguys.com. Catch us on iTunes now on podcast. You can listen to us on any of your favorite devices, the original 5 gig iPod, or even a thumb drive that has a headphone plug into it. We've had a great time today. A lot of good stuff. Please visit us on the web, on the leb.
The
lib.
lib. What about
On Litter at edutechguys.com on the Twitter. And on Facebook, we have a Facebook page out there, so you can check it for all the good stuff that's going on. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
And I'm Greg Moore.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.